you might be an expert as a founder in your industry, you know the products well, but you might not have built a real formal sales framework. So I think you need someone that understands what's required.
Why is it that founders or chief revenue officers don't give time and data enough to settle, and they make impulsive decisions? And then if you could answer a part two to that, what are you seeing as the net effect to their business when they're over-rotating and tacking and weaving?
A lot of times founders took a lot of risk to start their business. They ended up a compelling idea or something they felt was a compelling idea. They're excited about it. A lot of emotional capital, a lot of financial capital they invested in the business. So they're naturally a bit nervous.
Welcome to Outsource to Profits. I have a fantastic guest here. Michael, do you mind introducing who you are, what you do, and how you serve the world?
Yes, thanks, Jamie. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, I'm Mike DeLeo. I am a sales consultant, trainer, and coach with SalesOrg Solutions out of Boston here in the U.S. And I am a certified partner of Aslan Sales Training, a leading international sales training and coaching firm. And I help primarily small and mid-sized companies improve sales performance through tailored workshops and ongoing coaching services to support their frontline sales reps, as well as their frontline managers that have direct responsibility for overseeing those reps.
Well, Michael, you've just touched my heart. You might not have known this. So my first agency was a company called Sales for Life, and we did not talk about this offline. I pioneered and invented the sales methodology social selling and brought that to the world to 600 global customers. So know your ecosystem very well. And in my first agency, I started that company when I was, give or take, 30 years old. And so now I'm every day after, I had owned a bunch of small businesses up to that point, but I don't think any of them had ever crossed $500,000 a year. And so it didn't take very long. We hit $1 million in year 2, and then in year 3, 2 million, and then year 4, 3 million. And so it started to compound very quickly. So every day was a new day. I had never had dozens of employees and customers around the globe and enterprise level customers. And what I caught myself doing all the time, and I only see it in retrospect, is every Monday, the employees, I could see how they got so frustrated by it, because I would come every Monday, just guns a-blazing, and I would have 15 new ideas that I ruminated over the weekend with, and we would tack and weave and change all the time. Maybe SQLs were down that week. I have a new thing, or I've got a way to change this or to change that. And it was based on just even a little slowing down or stalling of any part of the business. I would have an utter freak out. And so I over-rotated, and I would change the business so much that in fact, I was sometimes doing a 180, and we'd start heading back in the wrong direction. So this is very common for first-time founders and also first-time chief revenue officers, heads of sales, and so forth. So with that, you're inside sales organizations every single day. And you can also talk from the founder community, because a lot of your customers are probably founder-led sales. Why is it that this level of impatience, and it comes with lack of experience, I think, why is it that founders or chief revenue officers don't give time and data enough to settle, and they make impulsive decisions? And then if you could answer a part two to that, what are you seeing as the net effect to their business when they're over-rotating and tacking and weaving?
That's a great question. You're right. It's a very common dynamic. And I think a lot of times, I do work with a lot of small and mid-sized companies, many of which are founder-led, founder-owned, or at least primarily owned by a founder, is that it starts even before the founder started the company. And unless they had success in other businesses or independently wealthy for whatever reason, a lot of times founders took a lot of risk to start their business. They had a compelling idea or something they felt was a compelling idea. They're excited about it. A lot of emotional capital, a lot of financial capital they invested in the business. So they're naturally a bit nervous. They've given up a lot. They've usually been successful at something else beforehand. They're not starting from entry level to right out of school to start a business. Usually they've been successful in something else and they've assumed a certain level of risk to start their new company. So they're very passionate about it. They're excited. They might be very knowledgeable in their industry, their space, have a good value proposition, but they're impatient because they're afraid that if they're not successful right away, maybe the outside world will view them differently, or they'll burn through a lot of capital they have and they won't be successful. So they have a very maybe artificial or unrealistic timeline. Separately, your point about pivoting too much, I feel that sometimes they feel that they need to, if things don't go immediately to plan or don't happen as quickly in terms of a revenue threshold or some strategic partnership or they haven't gotten 5 of their top 20 prospects by a certain point in time, they assume they're doing something wrong and then they need to change strategy or change their execution. When in reality, there might be some things that need to change. It's good to be open to adjusting and being flexible and nimble, particularly early on and kind of responding to the market. But if you do it too often or too frequently, you can tend to panic. And I think that customers and prospects can sense that. If you don't have a clear direction, a clear messaging, or if your marketing and sales messaging aren't aligned, or perhaps you try and take on too much and you can't deliver results that you've promised to customers, you say, well, I'll get the customers first, and then I'll once I have that revenue from them, then I'll hire customer success or I'll hire operations people to support them. That doesn't work out all the time, and you really need to get it right with your first customers to build referrals. So I think that's a kind of panic cycle of like, I'll do more later when we grow, but now I need to just get the customers, and the instant it doesn't work the way you planned, you're pivoting and changing. And that can cause a lot of confusion for the market, but also for your employees. They don't know what to do and they don't have clear direction. And there can be consequences for that.
So that then leads to, if you think of, I'm a big believer, especially from my sales training days, there's a mindset shift, then there's a skill set shift, then there's a toolkit shift. This is a podcast that's short, so we want to kind of jump to the answers. Are there specific frameworks, toolkits, systems that you like to put in place that help founders slow down to speed up? Or I often use a saying, you measure twice to cut once. That's how you tailor a suit. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, and then I'll tell you what I've done in my agencies that could be really beneficial for the audience.
Sure. I think a lot of times it starts with personnel and hiring too. I think it's a lot of times founders of small companies, they don't necessarily have the resources to hire the most tenured, the most experienced person, yet they can't afford, from a business standpoint, to hire someone too junior that can't take on the responsibility. Maybe it's their first time being a CRO. Maybe they're the only founding AE and they're the only person doing sales. You need somebody that has experience, particularly usually in your sector, or can bring something to the table, but also isn't going to be too expensive that you can't afford to keep them on. So it's finding the right person first and foremost. But I think in terms of process, you might be an expert as a founder in your industry. You know the products well, but you might not have built a real formal sales framework. So I think you need someone that understands what's required, not just from a process standpoint, but what is required when there's very limited brand awareness. You're selling to companies that either don't know you, or maybe you're trying to create a new industry or a new space where there aren't any real competitors. So there's that educational process. So I think you need to approach sales from a point of curiosity and humbleness. You need to be confident because people don't know you that well. But at the same time, you can't be too assumptive where you're so excited about your great new idea, your great new offering. You're just pitching and pushing things on a prospect that has no idea what you are. Maybe he's never even seen your type of product or service before at all from anyone else. So you have to be humble in terms of asking questions, getting in the door by understanding your potential value to a customer, but from a standpoint of, I think we can help you with X, Y, Z. This is how we're different from how you maybe currently or probably currently doing something. I'd love to discuss this with you, get your input, and bring them into the process, as opposed to saying, look at this great new disruptive technology or this great new solution. Why don't you see what I see about this? Why aren't you more excited about it? It has to be kind of an approach of education together in a journey, and incorporate prospects into, I think, product development and evolution as well.
I love it, because that's very serendipitous. As the call I just got off of is, once a month, we do a panel of both customers and all of our CSMs, account managers, and project managers come to a call, and it's an idea dump of improvements to the service delivery or improvements to the product set that could benefit the end using customer. And it's not to have a resolution, but to just talk about ideas, and then we stack rank and prioritize what can we execute tomorrow, or like today versus tomorrow, versus put in a queue of a longer tail product innovation. And tactically, something that's really helped me from a founder perspective, preventing the tacking and the weaving. And this is pertaining to anyone who's listening who has other co-founders. I've owned 3 agencies. In my first 2 agencies, and the thing is, because I'm the CEO and the sales leader, many times that naturally precludes me to having more of that commanding voice in the office. Thus, I would tack and weave everybody based on whipsawing them on what I wanted to do. But what I started to do in my third agency here at Get Levrg is I started using our EOS frameworks internally. And what that means is, I used to come up with a harebrained scheme, and then I would interrupt my partners. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do this every single day. Like, I would be through text or through email, and the ideas were flowing dynamically throughout the week. Well, everybody works differently, and they were struggling. Like, they want to work on the thing they're working on right now, and then they're being interrupted with my idea that I want to bring forth to the table. Now, in EOS, you have something called a level 10. And a level 10 is, you take all your ideas of the week and you bring them to a partner meeting once a week. And you do your discussions and votes only on that date and time. So us founders of Get Levrg, we never interrupt each other during the week. And for the last couple of years, every Monday, we have a 1-hour standing meeting and we vote on those topics. Well, then I started implementing this at the departmental level. So our go-to-market team has a level 10 and our service delivery team has a level 10. So the same sort of process. Each other are not interrupting each other throughout the day with harebrained ideas. We're backing up to table them once a week. And that's allowed us to accumulate more structured ideas, and we get more voices at the table to better well-round that idea, to turn it into an actual executable. So I can't stress enough, like EOS level 10s once a week. You can do it even down at the departmental level. So that leads to my last question. What are things that you personally have implemented in your own business and for your own self personally to prevent the creep of tacking and weaving?
I think those are great ideas that you shared about what you've done with your businesses. But for myself, and you know this from the sales training industry, great thing about being in the sales training and business is that even for successful companies, it's relevant. There's always people that need to be developed, can improve their skills. It's broad across industries, across roles, company sizes. Sales training and coaching is important. But at the same time, you need to be focused. And I work as an Aslan sales training partner, and I work with clients across a wide range of industries as well. But I have my own experience, my own expertise in certain areas, whereas some of my peers have different experience, that they're a bit more knowledgeable in other industries. So I think that while I think I'm flexible enough to help a lot of different types of companies, I need to realize that and focus myself and prioritize on what do I know best? Where can I have the most impact for my clients? What roles, what sectors, and so forth, as opposed to just trying to be all things to all people and just cast too wide of a net and do too many things. So I think I do facilitation delivery of sales training and coaching programs, but I also do my own business development. And I need to keep myself on track, stay focused on, okay, this is a good ideal customer profile for me. This is my background. Here's like how I can provide unique value. There's a lot of sales training people out there. We're not the only good company. I think Aslan's excellent, but there are others as well that are good. And I've taken a lot of training from competitors of mine that I think are really good. So my point is I need to focus on where can I differentiate myself, not just to win more business, but how can I be more effective? What's different about me and Aslan that fits X company or Y company well, and focus on that as opposed to trying to, again, be all things to all people and cast too wide of a net.
Yeah, no, this has been fantastic. How do people get a hold of you if they want to talk more about Aslan sales training or to you personally?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jamie. Thank you. Well, I think the easiest way to get a hold of me, and in case it's for your audio only listeners, perhaps I'll spell my last name. It's not an easy one. It's Michael. It's D''A''L''E'O, DeLeo. I think the easiest way to find me would be on LinkedIn. Send me a note, connect, mention you saw the podcast, and happy to, even if you want to just bounce ideas off me, it doesn't have to be a sales conversation. It can just be an exploration. Happy to talk to people in your audience and so forth. And it's probably the best way to reach me would be via LinkedIn.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being on Outsource to Profits.
Great being here, Jamie. Thanks so much. Great conversation.
Thank you.